So
You have a good checklist.
Oh yes, I'm adding these things to it. So I'm gonna start with freshmen, just because
Yeah, that's fine.
my rapport with sophomores and juniors and seniors have been built. So I think the new freshmen that I have, I think that would be a good starting point, so I'm not overwhelmed
Yeah.
trying to, you know, especially the IEPs have coming up. I can try to squeeze some sophomores in there, but definitely freshmen, because that's our base right there that we can build on. And then next year, maybe we can start with the freshmen and then build in our other kids with.
Or you can just focus on a few students, because I was talking to Paul
That
about
too.
how challenging this is to do this. You
Yeah.
know, some of the students are getting it nice. Just take a few of them and use them as, you know, the tool of engaging. And so you might wanna take students who might be a little bit easier to work with, and or whatever the case may be, or ones you feel are more challenged, whatever.
Yeah.
And then use them as a template and see what's
Yeah.
working here, what's not working here, and then change it up.
So it goes back to,
Yeah.
you know, that first 2 weeks we have that checklist, and we're supposed to meet with those students so
Yeah.
they know where their case managers, maybe brainstorming how we can introduce ourselves instead of going, bleh, and then them walking away going, okay, whatever.
It would be great if we could do some sort of system that was similar to like the counselors, in which we like have to, like, it's a very formal thing. Like,
Yes.
here's a slip of paper that you get that you have to come and see me. You know, as opposed to me trying to track them down in their classes and.
That would be hugely helpful. I mean, I know we don't have a
How would that,
office here or secretaries here for this department, but, I mean, other districts do, and there's so much work, but we have too much to do.
Yeah.
But something simple like that, where we could just send out call slips
well, no,
and
we
not
can
have
do
to
that, we
leave
can
the.
actually, we can email Laura Paco to have those things done.
They won't do
Really?
it,
Well, we'll
because,
work on that.
yeah, because they want me to prepare the slips and put them in the
Yeah,
slots.
okay.
So I have to do all the thing
Uh-huh.
and which class
So,
they go and check them, they don't do
so,
that.
prepare, and then, I'm gonna check into that.
Mhm.
But I do, that first 2 weeks, maybe we have that formal,
Yeah. Sit down
so
with them.
the students, and then coming up with a way to, like, I put back on the kids, why do you have an IEP? And then say, okay, you have an IEP, do you know why you're getting services? And then maybe have that conversation so they can tell us, so we know how much they know.
Yes.
Cause if we're answering it for them again, then they're walking away going, well, that's the lady who's supposed to help me if I get in trouble.
Yeah.
You know, so, or man, sorry, but, I like that.
What if we had like a department, like barbecue or pizza party or something for the incoming freshmen at the, you know, before school, before graduation? So we have the kids are ticked, I mean, or we do it before school starts,
I do it
but that's
before school
harder to,
starts, my
that's,
caseload, I do,
that's
yeah. I don't do a
harder to-
pizza thing, but I give that parents the opportunity to come in
Mhm.
during that week and
Mhm.
say, I'm here during this time, if you wanna stop by and meet me.
Mhm.
What do you think that would do by doing, because we have one before, just so we can meet the kids too, and then kind of figure out which classroom they're gonna go
I
on.
think having a more
We didn't do
relaxed
it last year,
environment
last
for the
year.
kids to come and visit and
Yeah.
meet with the case managers, the other special ed teachers, and kinda get a more kind of homey feel,
Yeah, we
It
did
just
do
makes
it,
it
last
less-
year was the only year we didn't do it.
Jen, do you want to say
I know, I'm
something?
just looking
Yeah,
at the email.
so
It's-
I think that this topic is really important because for 4 years I worked in a adult sort of residential day program, and so instead of IEPs they had IPPs.
Yeah.
So most likely a lot of the kids in SH as they transition into adulthood, that they're most likely going to have that. And so what we used to do was the IEPs they were like really like it was almost like a little like journal, like a book. So a lot of we created a sort of table of contents, kind of an outline, and we would hand it to them and just say, you don't need to know every little thing. If you have any questions, you can come and ask. But it was just it was just a breakdown. And so at least they had that in their hands and they kind of know. And then like we had individuals who like kept it in their pocket like everywhere they go because they were just so curious about it. And so I think for the students, maybe having some sort of simple outline, we could start off with just like a summary outline. So at least they know what the steps are, because I'm sure there's some kids feel like they're kind of going in blind and they're just not, or they feel like, oh, this is just between my parents and everybody everybody else. So I think that could be a start. It definitely will take time. It's not going to, I don't think it will sort itself out like overnight, but I've just seen sort of as, when I worked with these adults, I was always curious, like, what were they like in school, like, were they in special education, or were they, and so we also had teens, like adolescents, and they had IEPs and IPPs, and they were so overwhelmed by all of that, and so I just thought, maybe if we just start with a starting point and just kind of break it down, and then once we feel ready, once everything kind of comes together, then there could be more added to it.
I have a question. Do we not do, I know we're all talking about doing like a relaxed, like a check-in before, do we not actually have a structured one at this school? I'm just asking because at Evergreen, they would actually do, during registration night, they'd have the same night, so that they didn't have to like put it out twice. We don't actually do that.
We don't separate because it's.
No, just me, but the entire SPED team was there so that the students could check in.
We do, they check in as regular students like everybody else, cause we don't wanna separate them from their peers from the get-go.
Gotcha.
But we do have a 8th grade night, which we have a team that is presented, so when they have questions, they can come up to our department and start asking us questions. But highly sensitive to separating students out of those group things, just because it makes them different to go to a SPED table. Why are you going to that table? So I understand it could be smoother if that was the case, but that's my sensitivity to students. Just like when they were getting a different colored lunchbox tray, because they were free and reduced lunch. That's so I prefer that I think it would be streamlined and easier, but no, we don't. But 8th grade night, my expectation is anyone who can come from our department to go to 8th grade night, please go.
When do you do?
That's in March, yeah.
I'll put it on the calendar.
Yeah.
8th grade night? No, that's in January.
Is it in January? Sorry.
I wanna say, well, I'll look at the date.
They're moving stuff up early because now programming is starting, guys, in a couple weeks, just so you know. Yeah, so, but back to Julie, so I think, those are some things that you can,
Is there anything you need from us?
I love when you guys send us input about the students in class. That's really helpful for me when you send me emails about how they're doing or things that you've noticed, because all of that helps me understand a little bit more, especially if I don't see them in class. Helps me understand a little bit more about who they are and how they're functioning in class. So that when I do meet with them and sit down with them, I kind of have a little more context for that. Because you guys do have, your eyes and ears in a lot of ways.
yeah, no, so that's very helpful, so just so you guys know, Peters and LaBelle, Kathy and Mr. Luce, working his way into it, they do a lot of outside supports, and they get us back information on how students are doing, and that we can make a note, or pull them in because we need to talk to them, because we have a lot of fully mainstream kids, and it's very difficult to be eyes and ears everywhere, so. And we are gonna be getting one more person, possibly 2 more.
Students?
No, parents.
Oh.
Really? Yeah, they're hiring to replace one-on-one with Jen. Jen's role is gonna change slightly as an SAI para and doing her practicum for her credential. And then, we have one more, we're waiting for the thing to clear to get another teacher in.
Cool.
Another para in, and then you guys have somebody coming in for, I think, your department. I don't know.
No, I'd really like to hear that.
Yeah,
I gotta double check with him.
Christmas, you're gonna get.
Kathy?
Oh, what kind of things, like we were sending you, I know I've sent emails at times that I've been like, oh, I really think they should know this, but what kind of things would you like to know? Like, okay, if I see this behavior, or see something, not that I wanna send you tons, but just.
Yeah, I'd like to see how and if they're utilizing their accommodations. So like a lot of times I get accommodation sheets from past years or working out with a student, and it's like, oh, do you use extended time? And they're like, I don't know. It's like, well, it's not helpful. Or like, do I need to have my directions repeated to me? I don't know those things if I'm not there. So that input would be really
Okay.
helpful too.
I don't see that very often, and in fact, going in this, like now going to finals, I feel like I've been here long enough and I've identified some of the kids. I'm actually going and talking with them and just saying, hey, you know, for this final, if you would feel more comfortable, you know, you can either do it in a different place or, you know,
Yeah.
or let's take a look at what your accommodations are.
Yeah, yeah, I see that a lot too, which is why it's important to know if they are utilizing them.
What would that look like in a classroom? Cause I know some of these classrooms, I mean, they're big and having them, I'm trying to think, like you're talking about, you don't wanna single them out. So there are times where sometimes like with Miss L, there are a couple of kids in the back that I just kind of sometimes go and sit next to them. And there was a time where I said they were taking a test and so I knew that one of them English was a little bit hard and he also sat next to another sped student who also did translation for him. So I kind of reread the questions for both of them, just to make sure they were understanding the concept, and that actually did make a difference for them.
Yeah.
Cause I knew they knew the material, I just knew they weren't, because they'd been paying attention and they'd been working on it. So, I just sort of did that, and I'm trying to figure out how to do that a little bit more.
That's a skill
Mhm.
that if a student reading body language, if their behavior intensifies more when you come around. So those are things that you would just learn. If I've asked a kid, do you want a separate testing environment, and I've asked them if privately, and they said no, and I said I think you really should, then what I say is the next class I set it up so they go directly to that testing area and not to the classroom, get their test and go, because I don't wanna single them out.
Exactly.
So there's ways to come up with things like that, but just understanding the student, and you also are helping kids who are not sped, and reading kids who are not sped, cause some kids take advantage of it no matter what, so just understanding their body language, because if there's a kid like John Falkenbuck, his behavior sometimes intensifies when you come around.
Yep.
And then but you know he's not behaving and doing what he's supposed to be doing, but it's not helping, so we have to come up with a different way of doing it.
Right,
Yeah.
and he's doing really well right now. That's
So
sort of figured it out.
sometimes we become the antecedent,
Yeah.
and so I think it's just, and then talking to the case managers, you know, and if it's an ELD kid, and you just happen to absorb the kid out of your English 1, and he comes and asks, so when he asks, guess what, other people start asking.
Exactly, and it's great because the
Yeah.
sped kid is the one
Yeah.
translating for him, so I kind of get to help both at the, and then it works for everybody, 'cause everyone's like, oh yeah, well, you know what I mean, it's just like kind of a normal.
I think, and then people realize that we're not isolating and separating,
Right.
and we have to get to that point, so,
Okay, I think we've taken up.
You're done.
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, no, thank
Those
you
are some
guys.
good key things that
Yeah,
I want to add to my checklist.
we'll continue to talk about it as the year goes on and
Yeah.
kind of brainstorm what things, see how ideas.
Alright.
Thanks.
Real quickly, before, because I'm gonna let SH go,